episode of Esoterica the Podcast. I'm Chris Schultz.
I'm Aaron Christian.
And here we are, at it again. Hey, check us out on esotericathepodcast.com, where you'll find links to all the platforms you can listen to us on.
Yes, all relevant content is there.
Indeed.
Indeed.
So, we like to start off our episodes with a beverage review. And we've been doing esoteric sodas and esoteric juices.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we are on the precipice, well, no longer on the precipice, but actually circling the toilet, where I think we're at that, like, no shits to give stage.
Yeah.
So tonight we're going to have beer. And the beer I have selected for us is from Harpoon Brewery, which is not a really... they're pretty well known for a craft brewery.
Right.
But this is a limited run of Dunkin' Coffee Porter.
Now, I saw this. I used to work at a grocery store that sold beer and wine. I saw this, and I was interested in how it would taste. I don't know if you've tried it already or not, but...
I had one, but I had many beers that night, so I don't really remember. This is leftover from this, because this is what happens. I buy a six-pack, and I have a few, and then it's like months before I drink another. So I'm gonna crack it open. I had this really cool bottle opener that used to make Simpsons sound effects, but I think the battery's dead.
We'll find out.
So that is for you.
Thank you. So there's check marks on the back here. Oh, it's like supposed to be like the side of a Dunkin' cup.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, see? It's got the little checks on the circles.
Oh, I never even noticed it.
Roasty, malty, smooth.
Dark chocolate, espresso, brown.
I like that. That's a nice it's a nice touch.
Yeah. It's got a good smell to it.
Smells like beer.
Smells like beer. All right, well, we'll do a little toast to the end of the world.
Yeah, the end of the world. That's a nice sound.
That was a good clink. Ooh, that's good.
Mm.
I like my beers dark. Ooh, that's got a real coffee aftertaste to it.
Yeah, I was trying to let it sit. Usually the aftertaste is what gets me. Mm-hmm. You know, it makes or breaks it. Yeah, it didn't kill me. Oh, yeah, there's the coffee.
Yeah.
That really hit me. The espresso kind of.
Yeah. Now, I don't know, and there's no indication on the bottle as whether there's caffeine in this or not. We're having one, so it's not like we're going to get shit-faced.
No, it's purely for the flavor of what is it like, you know?
Yeah, which is, by the way, how to enjoy a craft beer. Like,
yes.
It's not a contest.
No, it's not.
You're just having one, you're enjoying the flavor. That's good. So I would recommend stopping out and getting a Harpoon Dunkin' Coffee Porter while they're still available.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't have much of an opinion other than, that tastes like coffee.
That tastes like coffee?
It's the tail. I mean, you get a really... blunt beer flavor. I don't know what else to call it, and then it turns into coffee towards the end of it. It's subtle, but it's there, you know.
Yeah, it's got that classic porter taste. It's a heavy, dark beer, which is, like I said, I kind of like. All right.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay, before we go any further, I want to take a minute to talk about the awesome folks at Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way. In fact, it's the way that we make a podcast. Let me explain.
It's free.
There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer.
Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more.
And you can make money from your podcast. Best part, no minimum listenership.
Ooh. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place.
It's so cool. We found the service. We started using it. We're making podcasts.
Yeah, making podcasts, making money, having a good time.
So listen, you want to get you out there. You want to be heard. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Thank you.
So we have some special guests with us today. We have Justin Arena and Owen Korzec from Nervous. So, hi guys, how you doing?
Hello.
Yeah, I haven't had Pringles in forever. This is sick.
So, I've known Justin and Owen for I've known you guys for 2-3 years now.
Oh, it's got to be. Yeah.
It's got to be. Yeah.
Got to be.
We played we played music in the same area before, right?
Yeah, I've done that too.
Yeah.
Me too.
So
Wow.
we're going to be reviewing you guys' album Cosmic later on. Why don't you talk a little bit about, though, Nervous? You know, where did Nervous come from? What are you guys about? Just give us a little synopsis.
What you doing now?
Well, Nervous in a nutshell. I had an old band, and we had a member change, and we ended up changing the name to Nervous. And then throughout the member change, where Owen and Matt and Kelly and Natalia and
Andrew.
everybody are like kind of joined in. Andrew was with us before, actually, but he got a little bit more involved when we changed our name and had a new lineup. But yeah, Nervous is kind of like a rebranded new band that formed from the ashes of one of my like old shit bands, and that's basically it. Like I've been playing music with Molly since the beginning, you know, like I've been releasing and recording music since 2013, late 2013, and around 2015, like end of 2015, Molly started playing bass with me, and that's kind of the way I've done it since. So this is kind of like the newest, best incarnation of me and Molly playing music together. And that's been really fun because, like, I mean, everybody who tries to start a band knows how it is to not be able to find the right members for a project. And we're just lucky enough that we were able to all come together and be like a project that works and be the right people for this. And that's why this record and why this band has survived and come to flourish, because we're the right people. And that's kind of the basis of like why Nervous actually works, you know, in contrast to maybe other bands where you got either the wrong members together or you're just not as lucky to be together at the same time, I guess. You know, that's kind of my like my magnum opus about this band is that just the team's solid, so it will survive because the team.
Yeah, I agree with the members thing is definitely a big thing, and I think I'd like to hear you talk about the actual way we like form, because that's kind of an interesting story for people. But I agree with the whole thing of like I'm someone who's been in so many different bands before that had lineup issues, and you know, this one's been going like the best of all of them, I think, and I think it's because of the way you do. So you should talk about how it was the super group thing.
Yeah. So basically, Nervous, when I was talking about lineup and I was thinking about everything, there was a point where Nervous was just me and Molly, because our old drummer and me and Molly had parted ways. Andrew was kind of in it a little bit, just like he recorded horns for like our last record under that old name. And I kind of like called Andrew and I'm like, look, man, like this is going to be a whole new sound, a whole new band. And like, I want you like involved like more primarily, like, and he was down. And I was like, look, like I want a bigger section. Like I want you to get us a trumpet player. I want you to get us some arrangement. So he found Kelly on trumpet. And you know, TBD on the new record, working on with new even more arrangements, new members, new players. But, I was on tour with Matt Minigal, and how me and Matt Minigal met we were both playing the same show at the Raven in Worcester, which if you haven't been to the Raven in Worcester, it's a really dark, no re-entry club in Worcester, in like the worst part of Worcester. And
I did not have a good experience playing there. I know exactly.
Yeah, and
what
it's
you're talking
for the
about.
viewers who haven't been to the Raven in Worcester. It's a dark venue with no re-entry, with no food, and it's a line of church pews in front of like a wicked rickety stage. And I met Matt there, and I saw him on stage, and I was like, I don't know who this guy is, but like I want to go on tour with him. So I went up to him after, and I said, let's go to California. And he's like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then 3 weeks later, I sent him our itinerary, and I was just like, we're taking your car, by the way. And then that's how me and Matt met. He actually went. And when I was on the tour with him, like, because I told him, I was like, you're going on tour with me. And then he did it. So I was just like, all right, when we're back, you're in my band. And he's just like, okay. And then he went to practice. So it's like, me and Matt have this relationship where I kind of like fortune cookied Matt into the band.
Yeah.
And then I did kind of like a similar, not the same, but similar thing with Owen, where I called Owen, and I kind of was
at 2 a.m.
Yeah, I called Owen at like 2 a.m. and I was like, hey, like I was wondering like if you want to like do some drum stuff for us. And Owen was like, yeah, like maybe as like a temporary, like almost like a fill-in, you know. And then just it wasn't temporary. He's not a fill-in.
Yeah. I think the key thing to note, though, is you had developed a relationship with all of us first, as opposed to it just like jumping into the band thing before getting to know us as people.
Well, yeah, I had been playing with Owen forever. I just went on a 36-day tour with Matt. I've known Molly forever. I've known Andrew since, you know, like a good while as well. So it's like we also all had good chemistry together. The interesting part about Nervous is not everybody knew each other. Everybody was there, only mutual friends with me. Like Molly didn't know either you or Matt very well. Like she knew you kind of.
Yeah, we know
and she never met Matt. And then like it was just everybody met because I dragged everybody into a room, and I was just like, this is happening. I know it's gonna work. Trust me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember, I think you guys played, was it December 2018? You guys did that holiday show at the Puzzle Factory.
Yeah.
And I remember standing, it was probably one of the first times you guys played, too, playing anything off the new album. And we had a few guys standing around me, everyone just like, Owen can play drums like that? Like,
Yeah.
This stuff's awesome, you know? Because we just seen you recording, and we've never seen you actually sit there and drum. So it was really cool for us, and you can really see the chemistry that you guys have building that relationship in that performance. So on my end, coming from me to you guys.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I'm really excited about is we recorded that record getting to know each other, or, you know, so to speak. And this new record, like, now we have a year's worth of shows under our belt. We've been on tour twice, like, across the country. And we not only have Cosmic under our belt, but we know each other better. And we know how each other writes better. And we were able to kind of co-write it more this time. And we were able to play our strengths. And we're doing it in a more streamlined way, like with recording. So we're just taking what we did with Cosmic, and we're in such a better position to do it this time. That's what I kind of attribute to our excitement about it, is just, you know, we did Cosmic with very little resources and didn't really know each other. And now we have more resources and we know each other better. And we've been playing, like, our musical chemistry has really, like, evolved since then. So that's what we're excited about. You know, even the Cosmic songs live, there's some parts on the on the Cosmic songs that we play live that are so different from the record now. And we would be excited.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, we'd be excited to, like, do some sort of thing where, like, we're able to capture the new versions of those Cosmic songs. We haven't really talked about that yet, but that's something that I've always thought was really cool with bands, is when you develop a song with live. That's why I really love it when people put different versions out, like live version or even different arrangement. Like, I'd be excited to do some with some of these tracks, but the new thing we're putting out is all new shit, and we're really excited.
So why don't let's shift gears just a little bit, and Justin, why don't you talk a little bit about Together Records and kind of what's that all about? I know you've talked to me about in the past this do it together kind of mantra, I'll call it.
Yeah.
Why don't you just kind of talk about what that's about and how this relates to Nervous a little bit?
Well, Together Records is something that I've put together, and it's I called myself a record label for a long time, and I think it still applies. But we're more of a community organizing entity and a distro. And what that means is, as a distro, I help promote people online, and I help people with merch. So, like, I screen print screen print T-shirts and make buttons and CDs, and just like help bands get merch and product for like cheap enough that these bands can profit the most they can. You know, because that's not a mission statement usually of merch companies. Mission statement of merch company is to make money, and it's like that's fair and fine, but that's like I try to lean more side to affordability, so that bands that are just starting out, especially people like me who are on a huge budget, it's like you got to be able to make money somehow. And I know on tours, like merch is big for me, like as far as sales and profit goes. So like it's a really, really big deal for bands to be able to order T-shirts from somebody, be able to sell them for $10 and profit.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Absolutely.
Because you end up ordering from some company and you can't profit unless you sell your shirts for $20, and then nobody can buy a $20 T-shirt usually. You know, it's like I think that's how it started. It started with me trying to get people affordable merch and get myself affordable merch as somebody who's in a band. So that's what needs to be a difference for me. It's just promoting people in our band camp, releasing my friends' records, and getting people merch in an easier, local, more fair trade way. And as a community organizing space and community organizing entity, I organize shows abroad outside of our space, and we have a couple different, you know, we've had a couple different spaces since the Together record started. So wherever that may be, you know, like we have a base space. So we've been based in the Puzzle Factory, and after that got shut down, we're based in Chess Company. But you know, I'll do Together Records organize shows at like Owen's house at the barn, or the Waymaker house in Hingham, or shows in Lowell or Boston, or even booking tours under the name. Because that's something I do as well that I don't typically advertise, but I'll, you know, I book tours for people too.
Big time.
So yeah. So
I know.
yeah. So that's kind of Together Records like origin story. Is I was just trying to make some merch and push my friend's stuff, and that's what I still try to do. That's kind of the name of the game as far as that entity is concerned. And now I make my full-time living off of music and T-shirts and the buttons, and people are getting their money's worth. You know, like I've raised my prices since I've started, and I'm still the most affordable locally sourced screen printing shop in 100 miles from here. You know, so it feels real good to be able to get people I know affordable and quality stuff, and know that not only they're supporting local, but I'm supporting local by doing that business.
Yeah, and I can personally speak to that too. I mean, Justin, you helped us out so much throughout everything. So this is also me saying thank you for that. I really appreciate that, and you helping us out.
Of course.
So let's start getting into the album a little bit. I just wanted to ask Owen too. Can you talk about with this album? I know we'll talk track by track, kind of like what each track's about. I know there's a lot of things going into it. Can you kind of talk a little bit to the production of it, how you guys put it together? I mean, both of you can obviously talk to this, but Owen, you spent so much time on it, and I know you had everybody you knew come into the studio and record parts of it too. So you kind of just talk to that for maybe a minute or so. And
yeah, probably going to take more than a minute, but so I guess starting out, I think it really started out, we're just kind of like, we want to, it's funny, in the beginning, we thought it was going to take like 1 month. We're just like, we want to get this out as fast as possible. We need to get these songs out. So we started recording in I think January of 2019. And we just kind of worked out, because it was very convenient that both Matt and I have like home studios. So we're able to do all the recording through the band. So we kind of like worked out a split, like where I would, we did like the drums and recorded the drums and bass tracks here, and then like guitars and most of the vocals at his place and horns. And then we also went back to my thing for like gang vocals and some other kind of flavor stuff. But like, it was definitely like a team effort. And we kind of like, we're still figuring out our process at the time, but there was a lot of, it was good that we had those, like, we had that understanding of like there's going to be stuff in my place and stuff at Matt's, and we were going to just collaborate on the recording process. We would send, Matt would send me a bunch of guitar tracks, just like lots of them, and then I'd have to do a lot of like sifting through and like trying to figure out which ones fit the sound of the record and stuff like that. Because we were still kind of figuring out our sound through that. I think it was really fun that Matt did it that way, because we had a way we played live, but I think we were still figuring out how that would apply to studio. So there was definitely a lot of experimentation with the recording side, and it ended up being an album with a lot of tracks, like they're very, very big arrangements with everything. And also kind of because we were trying to do it really fast, there wasn't a lot of time to overthink or actually take things out. So it's just kind of like, I had to try my best to, remove anything like my mix or whatever. But like the arrangements still were really, really big and kind of influenced by like Wall of Sound productions and stuff like that. So, and I liked how we threw gang vocals on a lot of the songs. So that was very much like, I think it fit the tone of the record well, because I think a lot of what we're talking about in the songs is like community. And I think that really just brought it all home, like just bringing like our own like people we know from the Together Records community and bringing them in for this big gang vocal session. And that's just like throughout most of the record, that's like a big feature, as well as like the horns, like having a 3-horn section added in there, like stuff like that. So yeah, there was, and then I also did all the mixing personally. So for me, that was a big phase of like, I think a lot of the recordings, it was really collaborative. It was really like very me secluded, just like hustling it out and really trying to do the best mixing I could, because I knew this was like a powerful record and worth, trying my best at, so I think that sums it up pretty much. Did I leave anything out really?
You didn't leave anything out. One thing to add before we forget, because this applies to all of the tracks, for gang vocals, because this was like my big vision for it. Like this is something I was really gung-ho about, which is we like made an event page. And we had like 50 people in the barn.
I was invited to that. I didn't go, but I was invited.
Yeah, we just went on this. We just had an event page and had snacks, and it was like basically everybody was in the barn, and we just like kept playing the parts like on loop, like 8 bars on loop in the barn. And it's like, all right, we're gonna play this wicked loud. Everybody sing it like to themselves for like 3 minutes straight, and then we're gonna go for it, and we're doing like 1 takes of all of the gang vocals. So like, all right, so this part you go, all right, cool, do that for 3 minutes, and now we're gonna take the first take.
Yeah, I felt kind of bad because like a lot of singers were worn out by the end of those vocals.
Nobody can talk.
We did the loudest songs last, which was like
a bad idea.
I don't know, maybe not, but yeah, we had like turmeric tea or something that we were giving everybody because we knew we had we had got to our but yeah, I think it was also interesting because there was enough people that people could rotate in and out of the gang. So like the gang on each song isn't the same people.
No,
like
there were people coming and going throughout the day. So like the people who got there later in the day are on Everything and Minutes and Cosmic, and the people who were there only earlier in the day were on like Paw Prints and 110's first part and like Scare, like people were flowing in and out, so like it was impossible for us to know who was on what.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting how they came out too. It's like it to me ended up sounding like such a group of people that I almost, there are very few moments in the record where I can pick out a particular voice in the gang. But one thing, we had a couple people kind of do features on top of the gang while they're here. So like Brian Fitzgerald did some like extra yells in like Scarecrow, and then like Kyle Wilson did something on Minutes, and
Trevor on Everything.
Yeah, Trevor on Everything is the biggest one. We gave him like a like a close mic track to really like join in with all three of us.
So we almost had like leaders vocally on each track, and we'll talk about them more track by track. But we had like leaders. I really was interested in the game vocal process because a lot of my favorite albums of all time have like really strong, like choral, like beautiful, like huge arranged vocals, but you can tell that they're not like real chorus people. You can tell they're just like alternative, like younger people who aren't vocally trained. And that's like really important to me, is representation with people who aren't like professionally trained vocalists, like just fucking wailing it and like giving it their all, and it sounds like so triumphant.
It worked awesome too, because even though we didn't like prepare a gang in advance, we
whoever fucking showed up.
Whoever showed up, we're gonna loop the song, tell you your part, and then people would go for it. But we had a bunch of musicians that would pick harmonies, but it's like we're not like we're not trying to be all choral about it. It's just like we're all musicians with our own unique kind of like voices, whether it's like in the vein of like punk or folk or whatever. But like people who could harmonize would harmonize. People who could sing high or low would do their thing, and it just it fell into place organically, which I think is the exact vibe we wanted.
Yeah, we were just like, do what you feel the best in your throat about. And then at the end, like I forget what part, but like there was two parts where we really wanted just like rippers, like we really just wanted people to like die on mic. And we were just like, okay, we've been telling you to be comfortable all day. Now it's the time to be uncomfortable. Wink, wink. But yeah, we can talk about the record if you want to.
Yeah, why don't we start to go track by track a little bit? So what we usually do, just to give you guys a heads up, is we usually play like maybe 10 to 20 seconds of a clip of a song. Obviously, we want everyone to go out and support the artist, so we're not going to give you the full thing. So we'll play a short clip, and then we'll come back in and we'll talk about it a little bit. Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're going to take a quick spin at Scarecrow.
I'll be dead. Oh, as my eyes roll back into my head. I'll be dead.
So that was Scarecrow. You guys kind of talk a little bit, maybe what's Scarecrow about?
Well, thematically, Scarecrow has taken on a couple different meanings for me, but when I wrote it, Scarecrow was a song about depression, and it is a song about, well, when I wrote Scarecrow, I was in an incredibly abusive relationship, and I was really struggling because I have never been in that position before. And I happened to that point in my life. And I was also young. I wrote Scarecrow. It was one of my first songs I ever wrote. And I was, I think, 17 and a half when I wrote Scarecrow, maybe 17. And yeah, that song was just about, feeling like your life is so dreary. And so like such an impossible force that it would be better off not living it. And that was like a really huge thing for me to grapple at that age, because I'd had battles with depression before that, but this gave it a physical manifestation. Before it was like it was chronic. It was normal human depression in your head, which is valid and hard, but different from depression that has a physical form and is actively hurting you. So that was my first time grappling that in my life. And like dealing with that trauma and stuff, my only coping mechanism was writing. So that's what that is about. And I've been playing it for years. It's the only song from that long ago that has survived up into this record. So like the only old song on the record, basically. And it's just battling depression. It's that's the theme. And
hey, I'm glad you mentioned that, because one of the things I think is interesting now, having that background now, is the sort of acceptance of that situation. If you're in an abusive relationship, there's no railing against it. And I think that's probably that depression where you're like, okay, I accept that this is just the way it's going to be.
Yeah, you submit to it. And like most of the verses are just like about like you really believe that this is about to be the rest of your life when you're in a state like that. When you're with somebody like that, it's you know, abuse and trauma feels unlimited and feels endless when it's happening to you. And you only ever will feel like that's going to pass after it has.
Yeah, and you can never tell somebody going through that there's another side because you don't see it when you're there.
You don't. And it's like, yeah, I would wake up every morning like, here we go again. This is it. Like, this is it. And then I die. Like, this is the rest of my life. That's how you really feel when you're in that position. And it was about 11 and a half months of my life. So it was pretty dragging. That's definitely my I think most linear work from that time period of my life. Everything else kind of fizzled out that I wrote, but that's the only one I held on to from there.
So you got something good out of it in the end.
Yeah, I got one song.
You got one song. That's a plus.
That's all you really need, you know, after the end of that. It's like a little trophy, you know. It's like I got out of there.
I earned this song.
Yeah.
And one thing I noticed when we were just making note of things earlier, I don't know if this was intentional at all, and maybe Owen can speak to this. I know Matt's not there. The guitar tone and the chord progression, and maybe Justin can speak to the chord progression of it, almost sounds like it gives me some sort of an autumn kind of feel, which for some reason I associate with a scarecrow. And I don't know if anybody's thought of it that way or not, but that's something that I felt a little bit. But it definitely, Scarecrow in the way that the song is composed makes perfect sense to me. And I don't know if anyone's put it that way, but.
Yeah, well, also, the representation of the scarecrows outside of my parents' house, where I was living at the time, outside of my old bedroom window, my neighbor actually just has a scarecrow in their yard. And it was fall. And when I was talking about, in like the lyrics, I think it's the line about the trees and, you know, like all of the imagery in the song, like with the leaves, it's all like autumn themed writing. Like that's kind of how it was intended to be picked up, because that was the point in my life I was writing it.
Yeah, that was all you.
Yeah, no, and I think that's absolutely fantastic, and it plays so well together with the message of the song. Let's moving next to the next song here is 110%. So we'll give that a spin. We'll do the same thing again. All right, 110%. So let's just kind of go for that. What do you want to mention about that in particular? I know we have a few talking points we can get to once you feel satisfied.
I mean, start with your talking points, because I'll just go off.
All right. I know one of the things, Chris, did you have anything on 110% you wanted to mention right off the bat?
It's a duet. I was looking at my notes. That's what I wrote.
I have to, Molly's voice works really well with yours, Justin. Like, I think that you guys really mesh well together. I wanted to note the kick-ass solo that's in there. So.
Yeah, that's all.
The Matt's, yeah.
Matt just sent that.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh my god.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel that a lot in the album with Matt just sending it, and I was like, what the hell are you doing? In the best way.
Yeah, honestly, that's how I experienced it with the production too. It was just like I would just get, you know, it was always like a surprise, like what's Matt's gonna send. It would always be 10 times better than what I thought it was gonna be. You know? So I don't know. Did you want to start with talking about the meaning of it, or do you want to go into more production stuff? What do you think?
Well, quick background. That's actually a song that that song was. I think 4 different incomplete songs I smushed together in chronological order of when they were written.
I never knew this.
Yeah, and I wrote them like all in the same week. It was just kind of like bits and pieces, but they're all supposed to be different songs. It was kind of like going to be a whole album, the concept, and then I just smushed it in one song and scrapped the record. But no, there's like a lot of it's definitely a dense song lyrically, and there's a lot of different themes jumping back and forth in it. But it's that song is kind of just, I mean, it's what it sounds like. It's just giving 110%. Like a lot of those songs are thematically just like I go too hard, and that's cool sometimes, but I also go too hard, and sometimes that screws things up. And that's the theme in the song is like I go too hard always, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, and that's also that's like a flaw of mine, but also something that like helps me sometimes. So that's literally the song's just about going too hard.
Yeah, and I have to say, what helps me relate is like your songs. I don't have to search too hard for the meaning. I can just relate to it, you know. And when I am searching for it, like I'm enjoying the whole time. I'm discovering things about myself. So I and I totally related to that message of, you know, you trying too hard, you know, but that's your best, you know.
You try too hard
Yeah.
all the time.
You try too hard all the time, and that's I relate to it so much. I'm losing my train of thought.
Yeah.
Well, the line, high fives can get heavy. Let me know if it gets scary. I'll hold back. Is somebody I met and was I'm still really close to, a friend of mine. Like we met through work, and when we'd walk by, like they worked at the register, and I worked like in the back, and I'd walk by them. And we'd like high five, like sarcastically, like, almost the end of the day kind of thing. Like, let's get out of here. We hate work. And I would just like, I guess I didn't notice it for a while, but I'd high five them. And one day they're just like, they pulled me aside and like, Justin, like every time you high five me, my hand's red for like, for like 2 hours. And like, it's hard to count change.
Yeah.
Like you need to chill.
Yeah.
Like you keep hurting me every time you give me a high five.
That's like exactly like what I think it would be about. You know, that's like
Literally exactly what I said. I did not mean anything more. It's just like I just like destroyed my friend's hand by accident.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That so reminds me of this guy, Dan, I used to work with. He was a wicked nice guy. Every time he walked by me, he'd be like, hey, how's it going? And I finally had to pull him aside, and I'm like, dude, you just need to say it once. Appreciate the thought, but come on.
So let's talk now a little about running away to Canada. Right? I said that right? Okay, good.
Yeah, well, on the nervous version, it's with 2 eyes. It's running away to Canada.
I wanted to ask if that was a mistake or not because I didn't see it the same across platforms, and I think that's great.
It was a mistake, but now it's intentional.
I think that's amazing.
I call it post intentional.
I just want to say the first time I heard the song was at the Something Saturday release show when Justin, you played it, and I've never forgotten it. So thank you for that. On that note, I love this song, and let's give it a quick little spin.
This is my very last stand on
So running away to Canada, or running away to Canada, multiple eyes.
That's correct.
That's correct. That's the correct pronunciation. That's the official pronunciation.
So I think the most notable part is the part about the puppy, because apparently that is an identifying factor we talked off mic about, and I obviously talk about the whole song because the whole song has such amazing alliteration about being a bug under a rug and you being the bee and the honey and everything. But definitely I'd love to know more about the puppy.
Well, that song is so a theme with that batch of writing in my writing sense has actually been running away to places rather than running away to places.
You mean from running
What?
away? Running away to rather than running away from.
Hold on, I
Right?
had like seltzer in my throat. I just had like a brain fart. We can do that in post. No, a good theme that I've been thinking about a lot lyrically is the difference between running away to places and running away from places. Yeah, what Owen said. yeah, like that's kind of how I started writing the song. Is just like I want to be able to run away to places without running away from things. I want to be able to like focus on the destination and the goal rather than the destination and the goal representing me getting away from something. And Canada's always just been like a really like it seems like I've been to the border plenty, but it's always just like I'm just like it's right there. It's just it's like representational of like the easiest way to get the hell out of here. And on my first tour or my second tour ever, I went to Syracuse. We played in Syracuse, and then we went up to Buffalo in New York, and we went to Niagara Falls, and like I just could see Canada, and I was just like, God damn it, like I'm so close. Now I'm about to turn back around and go back. But yeah, Canada was like a physical manifestation of like me like going away basically. And I was my partner at the time, and I like we both just like desperately wanted a puppy, but neither of us were in like the financial or like otherwise position to have a puppy. But like that song was kind of just a pipe dream of like running away to Canada because it was something we wanted to do, like get a puppy. And like these are all yearnings of mine that I kind of collected throughout the song, because the rest of the song is a song about love and a song about loving who you're with and the place you are with that person, you know. Like some places you associate with people, and the place that I was at mentally I associated with the person I was with. So it's like it was kind of like a high point love song of like this is so good, I want to run away and I want to preserve it, you know, like it is so good, this is so great that like I want to take it away where nobody else can mess with it, and just I want this to be like the rest of time kind of thing. That's a feeling that like I really wanted to capture, so like that's kind of what I did with the song, at least is capture that feeling.
There's one line in here I thought was absolutely amazing, and that's the we're both going to fuck up, but I don't think that matters at all. Like that should be the mantra in every relationship when you begin. That's because it's so true.
Yeah, and that song, that line particularly, like one really really cool thing about the situation that we were in is we were people who were very very like opposite. Like we like kind of like extrovert introvert, messy room clean room, like those kinds of differences. High energy, like the kind of intrusive person that I am, and then the really like OCD about cleaning polite person, like guest at party. Like we're just very like opposite people, personalities, but we agreed on the important things. And that's what I think is really important in relationships with other people, romantically or not, is like if you're going to get along with somebody, you got to agree on the important things, the things that are important to you, the things that are mutually important, you know. And that's what that line's about. It's just like, yeah, like we can just like I don't know, like we can disagree on the really really small stuff, but these big points that are big to people are what matters when it comes to having a social linear relationship with somebody that like has longevity to it and like has benefit to it.
So why don't we shift now to I know Owen's big song here, Uncomfortable. And I've heard from a number of people, and this is just from where I've seen it, that this has been one of their favorite songs on the album. Not to say that any of the other ones are not good at all, but Owen, I've heard a lot of good things. So
yeah, it's definitely in the top 5 most popular, I think, in our record, right? Yeah. There's a few of them that like there's a handful of them that are definitely, they just kind of hit a larger amount of people for whatever reason, you know.
Yeah, so we'll give a quick little spin, and then yeah, I want to hear about it. Owen, talk to us about Uncomfortable. I just want to give this to you. This is, your big baby.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I'm a big baby.
I hit drums.
I have to say, when I saw you guys do this live, that threw me off, and it was in the best way. So
What's that?
Justin playing drums threw me off in like the best way. You did a fantastic job. So
Yeah. Yeah. And Justin did great on that, on actually all the drum stuff. But yeah. So Uncomfortable. Yeah. Uncomfortable is, yeah. This is a big one, and I was thinking about it today, and it's kind of like for me, I think primarily it was like a transition song. I think, I believe the period of time when I was writing that was when I was, so I used to play in this cover band that was, it was one of those, like, it was very, it was music, but it made music feel like work. And so it was, it was definitely really good for me in many ways for my music career. But toward the end of it, it brought up a lot of emotions of like, this isn't what I want to do with my life. And so that got like, I'm someone who's experienced like depression in the way I have. And like, I don't think I experienced it to a strong degree, but things like whenever I'm in a situation where I feel like I'm kind of being forced into playing a role for like someone else's dream that's not my own dream, like that really burns me out, and it like sucks away my energy, and it just makes everything feel wrong in life and makes me negative and stuff like that. So Uncomfortable was definitely spurred out of the situation where I had decided I want to leave that band, but it was like it's a very long drawn out situation where I wasn't able to just get out of this thing I didn't want to do immediately. It was like I said, hey guys, I'm moving on, but then they're like, hey, you need to stay with us while we're finding someone else, and they would keep drawing it out and out and out. And so it completely tested my patience. Like, and it's one thing that brings up a lot of my, when I do have, like, I would call what I experience sometimes is like situational depression or burnout. And when I experience that, it's from situations where I can't just immediately transition out of a thing that I decided I hate doing. So it's like you're forced to live with doing something that feels like the old you, and just like that it's not in line with your values anymore. So I think that song for me was confronting like I'm not going to compromise my integrity and just kind of like blow this thing off. I'm gonna end my ties properly, but that means it's going to be uncomfortable for me, and there's going to be a lot of, and at the same time I was also going through a very big mental health journey of trying to completely let go of any ties to depression. Basically, I wanted to completely heal. I think I have a unique sort of situation where I don't feel like I ever had it to an extremely strong degree, but I had this incredible drive to just completely heal rather than cope, if that makes sense. And I'd been getting into a lot of like self-development type stuff and like going in that sort of direction, trying to just really take back the control over my own life and my own happiness and stuff. So that's really just like it's a transition song of like when you're moving from a position of like who you used to be and trying to move to a happier place, you get into these transitions either internally or externally in your life where it's just really stressful, and you kind of have to understand that you can't just have the ideal, like you can't just find that happiness right away, but you can find an inner peace in knowing that you're on the journey to that. So that's why it's like it's not easy, but it'll get better. It's like, or I'm doing the best I can even though it's uncomfortable. That's the idea of like being grateful that you're at least on a path to making yourself happier, even if you still have tons of bad days and you feel like you're just so done with it, So that's like a lot of what it's about lyrically. And yeah, I think I said enough about the lyrical side of it.
Just for time's sake, we're gonna continue to move a little forward. But Owen, that's a great synopsis of everything, and I think it really brings together like what Uncomfortable is about. And again, one of my personal favorites on this album. So, so we're gonna now move on to Paw Prints. Yeah, I'm not gonna say anything more than that.
And follow my footsteps, and I'll follow yours. Let's stay together. No, let's build a home.
All right, so Paw Prints, Justin, kind of turn things over to you to talk a little bit. Same thing. Give us a little bit of an idea. I have a few talking points. I got to pull back up on my phone. But yeah, just talk to us a little bit. What do you, what's kind of the vibe of Paw Prints?
About Paw Prints. One is what it's about. All right. Now that that's over. Paw Prints is about somebody who I met at a secluded festival in the woods of New Hampshire. And we met and we played some music together. And then I never saw them again. Like I've literally seen this person for like 5 hours ever. And right after post getting out of that situation, I mentioned with Scarecrow, I had gone in a camper with my grandparents for like half a week to this fair, and I was just miserable, just like walking around this festival alone, listening to like "I Love You, Honey Bear" by Father John Misty on repeat, and just like walking in the rain and mud, just like miserable person. And I was playing completely illegally within the festival, like busking, and they would kick me out of one part of the festival and I'd go to the other one and start doing it, and I was doing that, and somebody came up to me, this person, and they were just like, "Can I play with you?" And they had a ukulele and we were just busking together, and yeah, like I kind of like had like a mini like fall in love moment with this person, and then never saw them again. And I went to the camper that night and I wrote an entire EP, produced the entire EP that night in GarageBand, and then put it out. That's the Paw Prints EP, and then I pulled that song from that record onto the Nervous album. But yeah, that song's just about somebody I met like for 5 hours.
Well, and like one of the things I noted too is like it's kind of like a great twist on a love song almost. It's like it does seem short in terms of how most love songs go. Like feelings need to grow and take some time to incubate, and you only had a few hours to have all that happen. So I could definitely feel that.
Very, very optimistic song, I'd say.
We played around with a lot with the production on that too, because I think it comes across as a very simple song, but we just kind of ended up adding a lot to it. That was kind of the theme through the whole record, is like dressing up all the songs quite a lot with like instruments and flair and stuff. So I always felt like that song had a very sort of like like a beachy kind of happy vibe. So threw in some like shakers, and I can't remember, there's like maracas, but like And then like Matt also has this motif through the record of like slide guitar. So like, you know, there's just certain things added up to make that feel the way it did.
Yeah, and also one thing to note, and one of my favorite things about Pop Prince is Molly drums on it.
Yeah.
Really? Wow. I actually didn't know that.
Owen plays bass and Molly drums on that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Little known, but
Little known fact.
Little known fact. That's fantastic. So the next track I know is a mainly Matt track, and that's "Life Is Bleak." So I don't know how much we'll have to talk about that, but we'll So we'll let's take a spin to "Life Is Bleak." Life is Bleak. So I have to say, Matt really has a unique voice, and I think his voice has like really drives a lot of the high end of the song, and it's so fantastic. I just think it fits so well. Like you have this bleak of winter kind of feel to it, and Matt's voice really adds to that. It's just a lot of things that I noted, and again, kick-ass solo. You know, Matt playing guitar.
Actually, Matt wasn't completely happy with that solo. He like, so the thing was like he accepted what it was, but like it was sort of like after the fact he was like, oh, I wish I did it like a little bit differently, like this, that, or the other. But for like we just had to settle with how it was on the record because we were like getting stuff done pretty fast. But I think the solo was awesome, and I reassured him about that. But yeah, there's a lot of that one was really fun. Like I found Matt's songs are very well arranged, and like he had a lot of those arrangements already set from like prior recordings, so they're really fun and like kind of they came easier mixing wise. And I have good memories of, for Life Is Bleak in particular, I have good memories of like when I was mixing this record, I would often because I kind of didn't have a lot else going on in my life, so I was just like really hyper focusing on this. So sometimes I would kind of like, you know, nap in the evening and then like mix in the dead of night when it was real quiet and just kind of like get into it that way. And I have good memories of like mixing that like wee hours of the morning. I think I sent over the main draft at like 7 a.m. or something, but I feel like it really fits the mood of that song of just like, I'm really fascinated by the fact that it's, even though the lyrics are what they are, like the music is this, to me, it feels very happy and uplifting. And that's kind of a theme through our record of like bright music with dark lyrics. And I think that has a lot to do with like just kind of finding the hope in the darkness and sort of like, you know, being able to talk about these things, but still like dress them up to where they're like accessible and not just like way too much, you know?
Yeah, and one quick thing to add about like Life Is Bleak is two like little like I love working with Matt musically. I think Matt is like one of the most genius like instrumental players and lyricists that I've ever met. But specifically like instrumentally, we went through like 13 different drum parts for Life Is Bleak because I drum on that too, and Matt is just the only thing he had to say about it the whole time was simpler. Keep playing simpler.
Yeah.
No fills. No, nothing.
He said he was like something like simple and trashy.
Yeah, no,
something like that.
Yeah, he said something like he said, Justin, I want you to be able to like, I want you to sound like you're sleeping. I don't want, I want this to sound like I'm like forcing you to play it. You know, yeah. And then also with the guitar, he's like, yeah, man, like take it from my guitar part. Like I hate this guitar part. He's just like, I'm so bored. This guitar part is not interesting. It's not supposed to be interesting. I think the drums need a match. Like you just need to play something that bores you like to hell. That's what he wanted. And he says the same thing about one of our new songs. Like some of Matt's writing, some of his instrumentals, he's just like, yeah, it has to be boring to play. It has to be just so like ungodly boring to play. And I think that's a really, really funny take on like writing.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like, yeah, he's just like, yeah, I want it to sound this very particular way, and it's gonna make it really boring to play. But like, trust me, and like it works.
Yeah.
We're gonna move on to the next song in here, "A New Year," and yeah. A New Year. I have to say, I don't. You guys know the song "A Horse with No Name"?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the vibe I got.
Ah, interesting.
I don't know if that's been said before.
Yeah.
I've heard us compared to America.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's an insult or a compliment, but
I don't either.
I'll talk a little bit about what the vibe of that came from, because that's actually a song taken off, and also just something to know about a bunch of these songs are like taken off earlier records we did all solo, and we threw them into the full band mix. So this was one from my album Glow that I wrote when I think A New Year was probably like one of the first songs I wrote. I must have been like 15. But to your point about the vibe of it, that was actually the guitar feel and stuff, especially the way I produced it on the original record, was very influenced by an album called Sung Tongs by Animal Collective, which is kind of like I guess like a psychedelic folk album, but I really they do some really interesting guitar stuff that is just very, it makes you think differently about what acoustic guitars can do. But that's kind of how I got the idea of like very dark chords with like a swing to them. And then once we moved it into the Nervous arrangement, I kind of let go of that influence a bit more and let it just kind of mold into more of a, almost like a soul jazzy feel. And I love having Kelly's trumpet on that. That really made the song for me. But what A New Year is about is that was me just being young and really processing depression for the first time. And I feel like it's a similar feel as Uncomfortable, but it's less situation specific and more of like the actual, it was me at the time processing the idea of hope, and that like even when you feel terrible, like you can always hope for the future and find positivity in that. So I feel like A New Year was like the very basic, like just I was like a teenager just figuring out how to be positive in a time when it wasn't immediately available, but I could be positive in the future. And Uncomfortable was more of when life got real. And I think something I forgot to mention about that is like it was definitely the emotional toll I was in at that time. It was it was a very emotional thing, but I was also like struggling with like sleeping normally and stuff like that. So actually in both situations it was very I think really what sometimes I use the word depression, but I think a lot of what I've experienced has truly just been burnout. And I like, now that I'm older, I understand it's coming from that place. But like the both songs are pretty similar in theme of it. It's like, it's something I write about a lot, is like when you are in kind of an exhausted time, just knowing that that's not the end of things, and that you can hold a positive hope for the future. And that's why it's called A New Year. It's like, I was like, okay, this year sucked at the time, but I know there's another year coming, and I know that the future has so much possibility for change and like reinventing things. So, that's my basic rap for that song.
Yeah, I also one of my favorite parts on the entire record, like top 5 parts in this whole record, is in this song. And I was hoping I'd get the chance to talk about it actually. But this is one of my favorite parts on the record that I don't know if many people have caught. It's really subtle, but in the trumpet solo that Kelly does before my drums come in, you can hear in between notes of the solo Kelly's breaths, like these like inhales, and just like that happening underneath the instrumentation, just like that like little snippet of like 8 seconds of the end part of her solo is like one of my favorite parts in the whole record. It gives me chills. It gave me chills today. I listened to it on the way here, and like I'm so damn proud of that like 8-second block, you know?
Yeah.
Because like also I believe that was a solo where Kelly did it. I think that's one take. Like I think we like only did that once. We're like yeah whatever, you know, just throw it in there. But like that's like one of my favorite parts of the whole record.
Yeah,
And I'll
and
have to go back now and listen because like that's wicked interesting to me.
yeah, there's a lot of I think a theme for not only this record just but how I produce in general is and I think this is very inspired by Justin actually, is there are a lot of moments throughout where it's like we're wanting to leave in things that create a feeling of like magic or vulnerability or just some kind of like special feeling of like hearing the human playing the instrument. And there's an example of that in everything that we got to make sure we get to. But yeah, that's definitely throughout the whole record. I was just like, especially on the production and mixing side, because I had more of the stage of like the end of the creation of the record, and like my whole goal was like I want to make sure this emotionally hits in as many places as it can. I don't want it to be I don't want to get so caught up in technical things that I suck out those human, like the things that just make you feel the emotion of the song more strongly, even if it's in the instrumental textures.
Hey, you know what you just reminded me of, and I'll be happy to talk for viewers about this in the future, but when we were recording with you in the studio and Mike was punching me in the middle of one of the songs to try and get me to be a little angrier, you could hear his punches in between me
I don't even
getting
remember
angry.
that, but that's funny.
Yeah, it was really because he was really loud. Those punches, the mic was picking it up. But I'm just gonna let that hang so that people have questions about my life. So so we're gonna move on to Laura and Jesse Moss. There's gonna be an obvious question coming, and we'll wait till the next part about Laura and Jesse Moss. So let's hop into that. Again, one of my favorite songs in this album. Great solo. Let's take a listen to it.
I feel alright, don't you understand? I got my life sitting in my hands. Oh yeah, I'm gonna be happy now. Oh yeah, I'm gonna be happy now.
So the question I have to ask is, who is Lauren Jesse Moss?
Lauren Jesse Moss is somebody. Lauren Jesse Moss, because we actually don't really have like a huge, like I've talked to Matt about this, and basically Lauren Jesse Moss was a real person who was actually found dead in a Walmart parking lot, and her body was in her car for 3 months when anybody found her. And Matt, I mean, I can't speak for him, but when I've spoken to him about it, basically the song was like he read the news line about it, and it was just like, yeah, somebody like deserves to remember her. She deserves to be remembered, whoever that is. And like,
Yeah.
we don't know like about her family. We don't know if she had family. We don't know anything about her, but that Matt just wrote that to like honor somebody who's fallen like that,
Yeah, and like I have to say, like I totally love that vibe of the song, and actually hearing that story like completely changes my interpretation of it completely. I say completely twice, don't know why, But like just the other day, I tried learning the song on guitar just because like it just the vibe of it made me really I don't know, just made me inspired to try and learn new things. So I really love how that song is orchestrated. I love the message behind the song, especially now hearing that story.
Yeah, like I said, yeah, like neither of me or Owen wrote the lyrics, but like
Yeah.
whenever Matt's talked about that song, that's kind of how he puts it. It's just like, yeah, somebody like she deserves to be remembered by somebody, and we don't know if anybody does. Like, you know, we don't know about her family or anything.
Absolutely.
And yeah, it's interesting you bring up the guitar thing because I think that's a really special guitar part because I think I don't know if you agree with me, Justin, but I think it sounds much easier than it actually is to play.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it takes some finesse to like.
That's what I was talking about earlier with Matt. Matt wants things to be like Matt either wants things to sound easy and make them hard, or he tries so hard to make it sound good, but it sucks to play.
Yeah.
Like he just tries to make it's just so interesting. I love it.
Yeah.
I love him. He's
And
so good.
yeah, there's I'm trying to think of like most of us take solos in that, and so that was a fun little section to throw in. Trying to think of what else is
That's one of the songs that has changed dramatically since
Mhm.
we recorded it live. Live, we when the horn solo happens after the right before the drums cut out and into the drum solo, we actually halftime the entire song into like a reggae like slap beat, and now we do that song plenty different live now. So it's been a really fun one to kind of grow and like do weird stuff with and like have like features like on the free space of the song, like when we don't have the horns with us, like I'll like take like a glass bottle or like I think I hit my guitar with a hammer one time during that part. Like I just like destroy myself during that part in place of Andrew being there.
Yeah, and also like even just like drum wise, I remember when recording that I don't think it might have been like we really like when we did the drums and bass like recording the first part of the record, like we maybe played like 3 shows or something like that. So we were, you know, we'd practiced a bunch, but like you know, like that solo on the drum solo on the record is not how I play it live anymore. I just try to keep evolving it, and sometimes that's a choice I make with studio recordings, is to intentionally underplay so that whatever I do live, it will just be better, you know.
That's what happens in Life is Bleak. Live, I rip on Life is Bleak, but studio, like Matt was like, no, play it stupider. But live, I'm just like, like I think I did blast beats last time we played Life is Bleak live. like, oh yeah, I'm gonna, you know. So that's a really fun one to just like Lauren Jesse Moss is a fun one that just like evolves. You know, I think it's changed the most since the record's been out.
That's awesome, and I really want to see you guys live at some point soon. So at the end of the episode, please plug whatever you have coming up, or something. We'll get to that point, but
we have a global pandemic coming up.
You know, I know. So let's get to the title track now, Cosmic. I keep doing this thing where I try to lead into more sentences, and I should just let it go. So we're just gonna take a listen to Cosmic. So Cosmic, we're at the title track of the song. One thing that really stood out to me immediately was you have this like kind of thing in like the middle of the song or towards the beginning of the song. It reminds me there's a part in Bohemian Rhapsody where he says he's shivering down his spine, and he does right on the bridge of his guitar. He does that. It's giving me the same kind of vibe, but the change to Molly's voice, like halfway through the song, it's so fantastic. And the middle section where you just kind of just go off. Oh my God, so great. So talk to us about that a little bit. I love it.
there's a lot going production wise. I think I don't know if the thing you're talking about might have been just the glockenspiel, which isn't really on the record in that much other places, but it was one of those last things I was just like what does this need to sound finished? And I just I would like if there was like a thing that needed like a shaker or like a little bell part, I would throw it in there. The section in the middle is like there's we tried to throw in like everything we could there. Basically, there's some like little inside jokes.
Yeah, there's some secrets played in that noise part. Anything you want to reveal right now about your secret playing in that?
Well, we got to reveal them in order, I think. I think we should start by saying I think Matt claims that he did in fact play the Enter Sandman riff somewhere in there, but I can't hear it in the final thing.
Yeah, Matt played Enter Sandman in it. You did the reggaeton beat, right?
I think I did reggaeton, and I might have done I think I did something else. I did do this is a good Easter egg to find. I played the lick on the piano. That's the only, I think it's the piano only comes in the bridge section because I wanted something to play the lick on. So and I just boosted the volume for the lick. You still kind of, it's very hard to notice, but if you listen for it, you can hear it.
Yeah, I also know what you're talking about, Aaron, with that thing you're talking about. It's not the glockenspiel. That's me raking wicked hard through my guitar with my pick on harmonics on the 12th fret.
Yes.
Oh my gosh,
like,
yeah.
It's me doing natural harmonics, but just like half of my I like basically like broke a medium pick through my guitar.
Yeah, you can tell that's a really nice rake.
Yeah,
you do there.
Yeah. So that's what that sound was, and also I'm particularly proud of the I think this is the song the saxophone really shines on the most, and that's something that I really was important to me on the record. I was just like, we don't have a lot of sax on it, but we had an amazing player on it, and Lauren Silva, and oh my god, I think that Lauren just shines on that track, and I wrote that track when I was on my second tour ever. I was in a really dark bar that we were we were playing in a showroom that was attached to it, but I was in like the bar part, and there's like this like really dark corner where there's just like one chair, and I just like sat there and like was like having a real bad night, and I just like wrote the entire, other than Molly's verse, I wrote all of Cosmic, just like sitting in this like bar in like southwestern Mass, just like crying, like hiding my face from people at the bar. Just that song's just about feeling isolated from people, and like way too in your own head, and just like feeling like you can't relate to people, which is still something that I write about, because a lot of the problems that I've faced mentally, and a lot of the problems that I've had all boil down to me thinking in ways where I feel like, I don't know, I feel very, very, like, a lot of the problems that I have mentally aren't typically things that other people can relate to, because I am how do the kids say it? Completely fucked. So yeah, that's kind of what that song is about, is just feeling isolated and feeling like I can't relate to anybody, and like all these problems are completely first time only happening to me, like just freaking out, you know? You know, when you're freaking out. And at the time as well, I didn't have a phone, I don't think. I didn't own a cell phone, I don't think, at the time. That might be wrong, but like I may have just got it, but I didn't have cell phone service. Like, so like I couldn't call anybody. I was just like in this place, just like completely, just like alone. And that's like the mood. That's the big mood.
Again, I love this song. I mean, I'm gonna say that about every single track on here, but I love the song, love the vibe, love the feeling. I can totally relate. I keep forgetting about you over here, Chris.
Sorry. I'll chime in.
Okay. So
I'm enjoying this.
I'm glad. So moving on to the next song is Haze. That's a really Molly song, I assume. But we'll take a spin and we'll talk about that some more. All right, so Haze, great vibe, really a feel good kind of song. It kind of reminds me of when I used to work at Trukey's, the supermarket. I just kind of, I don't know, a lot of the songs they play there, and this is not meant as an insult, just had this really, it's just a real comfortable vibe. That's all I want to say. I don't mean that as an insult.
I'm gonna get promo nervous, kind of like Taruki's. The PR statement in the advertisements. That's what people say about us.
But I think what it really does show is how diverse you guys can be, because one second you're America and then the next thing you're a Trukey song, which America is a Trukey song, but that's unrelated. I mean, you guys are all over the map, and it's talking about being a super group, I think is fantastic. But what can you guys talk about Haze a little bit?
Well, I think the fun part about Haze, so the record was completely done. The record was totally mixed.
Not completely, but we were almost there.
Like
we had about a week, I think.
All the tracks were completely existing with all, like, it was just in mixing, like everything was recorded, and then we just, like, Molly was just basically just like,
I have it.
like, we're just like, all right, let's do this. Let's get you over here. So we had like a practice in Owen's like back living room, which was unusual because we usually do it in the barn, but it was like a blizzard, and we all like trekked out in a blizzard to like rehearse the new song, and just immediately like a snap of the finger, the arrangement was already there. Like Molly played it for us once, and then like we already like Owen just was already playing that drum part when we started. Like I was already playing the same bass line. Like we just already knew what we were gonna do for it, and we just kind of slapped it together and put it in the record because we were all really excited about having a Molly song on it. We thought we might not get one. And it was just really exciting when she brought it. We just kind of whipped it together like real fast.
Yeah. I think it was more than a week. I'm exaggerating, but maybe I feel like from the start of recording it, probably 2 weeks. I don't know. I think we might have the writing. I didn't feel like the writing was too rushed. Like we definitely made sure that it was the song it was supposed to be. But definitely, it was like a lot of the, certain things like we and I'm kind of glad like we didn't need to throw like gang vocals or much horns on it, just a little bit like a trumpet or something. But that's one of the simpler songs. But I think it stands that way fine because the message I think is just so important.
Yeah, well, correct me if I'm wrong too, but I don't think there are horns on his.
Did we take them out? I think there's like one trumpet in line with the whoa-ohs. So just in there a little bit.
Yeah, like
I remember because I asked for that.
Yeah.
Last minute.
Yeah. Like for the majority of it, like, yeah, we like didn't even like that wasn't Horn Day happened when we recorded Horn Day, and then Haze came to the table.
Horns were done all in one day.
Horns were done all in one day as well.
Yeah, and an interesting part of that was like when I was like mixing it and stuff, I was given like some different take options, and there was some like, like trying to pick what would fit for, what would fit where, and kind of like make those decisions after the fact, because on the day of we were just trying to get it all done real quick. But they gave us plenty of material. It was awesome. Yeah. Do you have anything else to say about it?
That's Haze. Molly's great.
Yeah. So, I think were you going to say something? You were giving me this look. We want to move on next to minutes, and I know Chris has a lot to say about minutes. I get really excited listening to it. So let's take a spin, and I'm going to let him take that over.
And I'm staring at the slideshow, and I smell mint and flowers, a little bit of formaldehyde,
All right, so my first question out of the gate: are we talking about Shepherd's Funeral Home?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I went to college for funeral service. I worked in it, a couple of years, many years ago. So one of the things I thought was really interesting about this song is I both attended and worked probably in my lifetime hundreds of wakes,
Yeah.
and this song really captures what it's like to be part of that. Not the guy standing at the door, but the one kind of walking through this and experiencing it, and that was amazing to me.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to capture. This is the entire song is capturing one moment walking through the home.
Was this a relative that passed?
You could say that it was like a father to me. So yeah, this song was about a buddy of mine who took me under his wing, an older figure who helped me a lot and was really, really supportive of everything that I do. And my friend died from an overdose in 2016, I think. It could have been late 15. But yeah, it's just another friend of mine who have lost to alcohol and drug abuse. And it is a song that I wrote in Shepherd's, walking through on my phone, just looking at everything. And I stayed there for quite a while. And people talk about how sad and how like heartbreaking losing a loved one is, but not everybody talks about how that moment of walking in and just looking and just I also was somebody who I didn't know his family at all. I had no familiar relationship with this person. So when I walked in, there were 50, 60, 70 people there because the lot was full. Like there's the packed one. And I didn't know anybody. Like I had no idea. I didn't know a single soul. I didn't know any of his family. So that was weird because I was walking around and there were pictures of me and him in these frames and like nobody knew who I was. Everybody's like,
wow.
how did you know him? And I was walking around just talking about, like, and just celebrating his life. But yeah, like it was weird. Like I was almost like, this isn't how it was, but like, it was almost like there was his life. And then there was like me who was like kind of like a separate entity. And like, so everybody there was just like, who the hell is this guy? So it was nice meeting everybody who loved him too. And that's kind of what I spent the majority of my time doing during that service, was talking to the people who loved him and the people who knew him in different ways than I did. And I was doing the vice versa. I worked for his company. He ran a masonry company, and I helped him. We did all of the brick pathways at Shepherd's.
Oh wow.
Oh,
Yeah. But that's why, because too, like you can imagine, like we did the pathways and stuff, and then I was just walking onto the pathway into the service, So that was like a really hard moment for me. But that's the song is about, is going to a service and just capturing that moment that I don't feel like a lot of people talk about.
Mm-hmm.
No, and it's interesting because I think a lot of times too, when you think of that experience of going through a wake, like the immediate family has their whole thing going on, and for anybody else, it's such a surreal experience walking through there and experiencing your emotions, experiencing other people's emotions. And I've just, like I said, between all the ones I've been to personally and the ones I've worked at, I've never seen the experience put into such eloquent words. So it really just blew me away.
Thank you so much. No, I'm really proud of that one. It's one of my proudest pieces that I've ever put together as a writer and musician. But that still holds up in my head. I really like that one.
Yeah, and you were very specific about what you wanted for it musically too.
Yeah.
That's why we featured Nick Grisolia on double bass, and who else did we? I mean, there's a lot of the horns took a big role in that whole song.
You went on cello.
Yeah, and yeah, I remember just like you were very specific about things like Owen, I want you to use a bunch of like cross stick on the drums, and like it was like we're trying to really like pinpoint what musically would capture that feeling as well. And one of my favorite parts, honestly, is just the way I remember we were doing your vocals, and we were kind of like we were getting toward the end of recording, kind of in rush mode, but I think I remember like the way you were, when it gets to the real loud part, it's like the way you were going for the scream. It's like, it was very, like I remember that was a tricky vocal day for you, but I love it on that song because it, it just put that full emotion in there of, like just the person you love is gone, like that's, so yeah, it's just, that was very much a, I don't know how to describe it, a very sensory song or something like that.
Yeah, and one of my favorite parts on the record, I think these top 5 parts basically, like the Kelly part on A New Year. But this is another favorite part of mine. It's all instrumental too. But when Owen comes in with the rim shots and the drums, it's called Minutes, and it's about like the time passing really slowly in that moment. And he comes in and it sounds like a clock, like it's only been minutes.
Yeah.
That's something that was really, really satisfying for me to hear. And I guess you told me that was like an old Berkeley trick you went, right?
Yeah, it was, but it, we, going into this band, one of the things I really liked is that I had been watching Justin perform a lot solo and just like getting familiar with these songs. So like by the time it came to writing drum parts, I was very influenced by the lyrics, and I wanted to, flavor that with the correct drum ingredients to make the lyrics shine, so it's like stuff like that we did. And also I was going to mention Matt's slide guitar sort of theme like really shines in that song a lot. So just getting a lot of different textures. Matt is like one of the best like studio guitarists I've ever heard, and like just so great at like finding those textures that pull the song emotionally where it is meant to go. And even like we would like leave in like the noise of like the amp buzzing to like kind of like, for me the decision to do that was like almost like this feeling of like kind of like spacing out mentally or something, or like there's like a buzz and then the buzz stops and then you're very present. And I think that was, when I think of that song, I think of a lot of like the moment is so unforgettable, and like finding like moments in the production where you can leave that space and that sense of like tuning in to like, wow, like this is like just a moment. Like I don't know, I'm not articulate right now, but you know what I mean.
I'm proud to wrap it up. This is definitely instrumentally and vocal performance wise. I don't know about lyrics. I'm really proud of it lyrically, but definitely can confirm instrumentally and like vocally, this is my favorite thing I've ever recorded to date. Definitely.
Yeah, I love instrumentally breaking it apart. I mean, one of my favorite things to do to a song is to sit there and break down the different components, figure out what makes it a good song. And I could easily do that with this song because of how complex it was, if that makes sense. So I really respect that.
Almost every song on this record is like fucking 30 tracks more,
Yeah.
way more than 30.
Yeah. I think it just fit with the lyric, like the lyrical content. I think is so I feel like we're all coming to such strong realizations that I think the music can really like highlight those a lot. And so yeah, it was like it was just a lot for all of us,
Yeah.
and especially the like pulling collections of, it's like the four of us who were just starting to make music together and pulling songs from different times in our lives as well. It's like there's just so much instrumental fuel as like just stemming out of what the lyrics are saying. So that's why we just went all in on instruments as well.
So to move on to the next track, I do great discussions with this one. We're going to go on to Nothing. And I know it's a relatively short song, so we'll play it and we'll have some conversations. right, nothing. So relatively short song, instrumental. I guess Owen kind of wanted to touch upon it. Obviously, you're both part of it, but I know you had to deal with it the most. So
This is pulling a portion of everything that used to be there in an earlier rendition of everything. So this used to be at the nothing was basically a section of everything that used to be towards the end of the original song, and then Justin shortened it to just make the song not too long. But I remember even before I was in the band, I was such a fan of everything, and just the part where it was just you just take out the lyrics and like go to the oh and just kind of like feel the crescendo behind it. And so I was talking to him in the car once about like if we just kind of like did something with that and tried to recycle it. So nothing is basically like a we ended up we're saying maybe we could put that in another track and just make it this like emotional build up that kind of prepares for everything. And nothing probably has the most guitar tracks on the entire record. I think I kept almost all of what Matt sent me, which wasn't Matt's intention, but I was like, no man, this sounds great. Like I want an ambient wall of sound. So I did a lot of production wise, it was a lot of like fine tuning that, but Matt really like pushed the I think the overall vibe of it being like this ambient thing, and then just like the gang vocals top off the crescendo. That's basically that for nothing.
Yeah, everything used to be 9 minutes when I first wrote it, and I took that out after. So imagine this, right? How it used to be is after the bridge, nothing was the second bridge, and then I went back to the chorus. But I directly ripped nothing and everything's concept from one of my favorite albums of all time, and I'm gonna come clean about it on recording right now. That's
Nice.
That's exactly what they did on the album No Closer to Heaven by the Wonder Years. The first track called Brothers and I believe it's called.
Yeah.
And then there's the second song on the album called Cardinals, and it's literally the motif of the record, and it's an instrumental like 1 minute song with like all gang vocals, and that record and the gang vocals and Brothers and is the exact track that influenced all of the gang vocal sound on the record.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we're both big into that record, so that
Yeah.
was a good like common theme. That Wonder Years record and the acoustic one,
Burst and Decay.
yeah, those are both big influences.
Yeah, so that was like me kind of like referencing to No Closer to Heaven by the Wonder Years.
Yeah.
Well, also that part already existed, so I really wanted it to crescendo. The whole song is a big crescendo, but I wanted it to kind of come to a head like Brothers and does, and then cut back out to the original guitar part. So if you listen to the first two tracks on that record, and then you listen to Nothing and Everything, you can definitely see where I ripped and what the similarities are.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, speaking of everything, these two mesh together. Let's take a quick listen, and we can just dive right back in.
Plenty of places my friends need to be, like heaven and showing down the work class, the house, or with their lovers. I wish we could talk and love one another more than we do.
So just diving right back in. I mean, these two songs, we talked about how there are relations between the two. Everything. I actually forgot to write notes about this song. For some reason, I stop at minutes, and that bothers me because I knew there were things I really enjoyed. So let's talk a little bit more about everything.
Everything I wrote the tour after I wrote Cosmic, and that was like the third tour I ever did, and that was I started playing it like that tour. I'd been playing everything live and changing it for like 3 years or something, like that amount, and people have been like learning it because they've seen me play live, and this is like for some people, they were just like, finally, Justin's just going to put out everything. That's like why people are excited. Some people about the record. It's just like, I promise I'm putting it out this time. Because like 2 records in a row, everybody is like waiting for this song. and like I just keep not putting it out. I really wanted it to be right, and that's a song that's really important to me, because it's just kind of like about like accepting things are going to change, and that's something I had a really hard time with when I was a kid, especially post my trauma and post my previously stated abuse. It was like it was a song. It's a song of acceptance, and it's a song of loving people, and it's a song about honoring people who you can love but aren't here anymore. You know, like continuing loving somebody post whether it's death or whether it's parting ways for other reasons, or you know, it's about honoring people and loving people even when they can't necessarily love you back. And that's something that's really hard too, because that's an output. Like you're providing an output of love, and your energy and your brain is going into that, and receiving no signal back, regardless of the reason, is something that isn't sustainable for everybody. But for me, it's really rewarding, and it's really, it's really important to me. So yeah, that song's about just loving people, regardless of if you know, not expecting the same output from them, you know. And it's also just about she's like, there was this snap. I haven't really talked about this before actually, but basically there was this snapshot memory that I had on that tour of being in a basement in Philadelphia and watching this band I was touring with play, and I consider this moment to be the moment that I accepted that I was going to die. It is the moment I accepted my mortality, and when sometimes I think of that moment, and a new snapshot is made. Like 2 months ago, I had another snapshot, and I always trace back to that moment, and that was really important to me when I was writing the song as well, because it was something that scared the shit out of me for a long time, and it still scares the shit out of me, because obviously. But I look at it in a different light now, and I live my life on the basis that I'm mortal, and that's just something that's really important for like not only my sustainability as a person, but like also my creativity and like my topics I write about, and like how I work, I guess, as a creative person.
Mm-hmm. And I also want to say I relate to that sort of like feeling as well. I think Everything was one of the songs that connected with me a lot, even before I was in the band. But it's like I think Justin and I both have some sort of spiritual drive. Like, I don't know what you want to call it, but and I think that song really brings that message home of like the way community influences things, and like being part of things bigger than yourself, and like focusing on like giving and love, and like knowing that it's like maybe it's there for you or not, but you're still going to love anyways. And like I think I was thinking about this song too, like I think it points this is my like personal interpretation, probably separate from your own, you know, like writing, but I think it points a lot to the issue of like sometimes in society, like it's emotional availability and connection, and even just vulnerable social connection is really rare. And I think that song brings to light a lot of important perspectives on that, in terms of like you know, like I've talked to a lot of people who like the line about like so if I call you in the morning without warning, it just means I love you. It's like that getting it in your heart that it's okay to just reach out to a friend just for no reason, just because you care about them. And I think there's a lot of this I think in connecting with your own, you know, like the idea of your own mortality, it makes you think about one of the most important things that I think sometimes just the everyday run of society makes us forget about, is that our connection with other people. And it's like we get so wrapped up in the day-to-day things that like if you really start to try to accept mortality or whatever that means to you, or like accept whatever your spiritual purpose is, it makes you really think about that as one of the most important things. It's like the memories you have with people, and you know, just outputting love, even, you know, even if it's not being received, it doesn't matter, because love is like the fuel that's it's going to do good things no matter what, you know.
Yeah, and this isn't necessarily the direct message from the song, but something that I like was hoping some people would pull from the song is you are going to fucking die. And there's nothing you can do about it, no matter what. No scientist is going to find out mortality while you're alive. They're not going to figure it out. You're going to fucking die. And you have no idea what's going to happen to you.
And you have no idea when either.
You don't know when.
Yeah.
It could be this week. It could be
Yeah.
right after you listen to this, viewer. But kind of the point is like, what are you going to do about it? Like, what are you going to do while you can? Because after it's done, you can't, you know, like, like you need to do whatever you're going to do right now. And if it's contributing like to the world positively, like good on you. Cause like, that's what I'm trying to fucking do. And if you're a piece of shit, like fuck you. But like, like that's kind of the message of the song, is just like, well, I know exactly what I'm going to do. I don't care. Like, you don't need to know like what your career is going to be. I'm not like telling you to go to college or something, but like know like what your morals are, and like live by them. God damn it. Like, don't sell yourself, you know, don't sell yourself short. You know, like you are capable of so many beautiful, amazing acts of kindness, and like you can contribute to the world in so many more ways than you think, positively and like in a big way. And you can't do that when you're fucking dead and you don't know when you're gonna die. So just go for it. Just fucking do it.
Yeah.
You know, just like do something good for somebody.
Yeah, and like choosing to live with meaning, because like I mean, I think we've all struggled at times with the feeling of life being more meaningless, but I think when you make the intent to make it meaningful, that like it's just you can sort of latch onto that. And I think that song is like one of those things that reminds me of that meaning behind everything. It's like, why are we doing everything, you know?
We are all adults sitting in our own filth, feeling like we're a burden to the people we love, but like sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes you're just like sitting in your own shit, because we all do it, and you just need to, you know, like I'm not giving you like an online email advertisement Ty Lopez pep talk right now, but like I don't know, like go like do something that's fulfilling to you. Like if you don't want to be a lawyer, don't let your parents make you a lawyer. Go do your music, go paint a picture, go, I don't know, like if you're really interested in lumber, go work at a lumber yard, you know, like just do what makes you happy, and do what you think, you know, because at the end of the day, that's all that matters. Like I don't know, like I don't care about like the profits of like a corporation. Like I just make myself happy and the people around me happy, and I want to make people's lives way easier so they can do those things, you know. And I think that's just like the whole thing. It's just like do your thing, because you can, and if you think you can't, I don't know, do it anyway. It's scary. Things are scary.
Well, I think that's a perfect place to wrap up Cosmic, and I think we've done a great job talking with you guys and really breaking down what this album's about. And I really want to give you guys first I want to say thank you for coming on and talking about Cosmic all together, and I want to give you guys a chance. Do you have social media and stuff you like to plug here? I know we're in a global pandemic, like we mentioned earlier, but yeah, no, please plug everything you got going on.
Okay, well, we're working on our new record, and that should be out sometime this year. I'm not making any promises of like month or anything, but we're working on it. Hopefully 2020, we're thinking. And then our Facebook is Nervous MA, like Facebook / we have an Instagram. I think we're gonna try to get better at updating it. It's not as active as our Facebook, but that's Nervous MA on Instagram, I think, as well. Our Bandcamp is nervousma.bandcamp, and I think that's all of our links, because there's no shows coming up. because like the world's ending. But like we have one thing I wanted to mention is the pun nobody's brought up. Our album cover is a neuron, like like the nervous system, like nervous.
Oh,
That's
okay.
the part where you laugh.
I had a light bulb go off a moment. I had to get through before I could laugh.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, as long as that's the moral of the story.
Yeah. And that was mostly Molly's doing, right?
That was Molly. Molly
Yeah.
went to her went to the hospital because she like works and like was in pre-med school and all this, but she got like 100 slides of like microscope shots and like sent them the email. I was like, which one? And then we all like unanimously like the same one. So
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
yeah, so she actually went to the hospital and like met up with the doctor and got a bunch of slide samples for us and they, if you have a physical of the record, there's a lot more of the slide samples all over the physicals.
Well, thank you guys again so much, and please be on the lookout for Nervous wherever you can find them. We'll have links on our website, esotericathepodcast.com, to your Bandcamp, so everyone can buy the album there. You're doing nothing else during this pandemic, so give them a listen if you haven't already. It's totally worth it. So thank you guys again, and we hope to be talking to you guys soon.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
And if anybody likes any of the specific tracks off the record, me, Owen, and Matt all have solo music that are incredibly similar. So like Owen Korzec, Matt Minigal, Justin Arena, we all have solo records out, and hopefully we're going to be seeing Molly Garrity, new album 2020. She's going to kill me for saying that. All right, goodbye, Aaron.
Thank you so
All right.
much.
Thank you guys so much.
So we've come to that point in the podcast.
Where we have to wrap things up.
Anyway.
Don't forget to check us out on our website, esotericathepodcast.com. We have episodes out weekly on Wednesdays. Next week, Chris, what are we going to be looking at?
Next week, we are going to take a listen to the Residents album, Wormwood. So that should be interesting.
I'm looking forward to it. So, again, check us out Wednesdays at midnight. Our new episodes are dropped, esotericathepodcast.com. And
Thank you for listening.
we'll see you next week.